Hi, everyone, and welcome to this. This is going to be a very special meeting of the Maine Public All Books Considered Book Club. As you know, usually the book club meets when we have a single author and a single book to discuss, but this is a little bit different. On this meeting, we are meeting the Starfish Writers Group, though even though I know everybody and have met everybody here tonight, I didn't know that the Starfish Writers Group existed. So this is sort of the unveiling of a wonderful super secret group. And I want to thank Monica Wood for bringing us in on this wonderful event. I want to thank all of the members of the book club who are here tonight, the sponsors of the Maine Calling Book Club, the book stores that are part of this great team of people that bring this all the time, and of course the team at Maine Public that is behind this tonight, Jonathan Smith, Nick Godfrey, and Corey Morrissey, and everybody who brings this. But special thanks to Monica Wood, whose idea this was, and to all of the authors here tonight. The Starfish Book Club is here. Excuse me, what do you call yourselves, Monica? You're not the book club, you're the writers group, the Starfish Writers Group, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the Starfish Writers Group. Bill Rohrback, Lewis Robinson, Kate Christensen, Sarah Bronstein, and Monica Wood. And Monica, I'm going to start with you. When people think of a book writers group, I think often they think of first-time authors who are coming together to give each other some cheerleading, to provide motivation for each other, to tell each other, you can do it. I know you can do it. We're going to read each other's manuscripts. We're going to help each other polish our prose, and we're going to help each other get ourselves to a place where we might get published. All of you are published authors. All of you know what you're doing. What do you provide for one another?
Oh my gosh. I honestly don't think I can ever write another thing without these beautiful people here. And I'm pretty sure they are thinking the same thing as I say this. So they provide enormous moral support. And I feel like, it's hard, right? It's a hard path that we have chosen. And it's really nice to have somebody walking that path for you. And this is the first time that's ever been for me. Some of us have been in book and writing groups before. This is my first time. And I don't know why I waited so long. I just love it.
Well, you say waited so long. How long has this writers group, how far long has the Starfish Writers Group been a writers group?
5.5 years, I think. It'll be 6 years in March.
All right, Bill, I'm going to ask you the same question. Bill Rohrback, what does having a writers group do for you?
I'm just shocked to hear that it's been 5.5 years. It's gone so swiftly. Well, all these people were we were friends before that, we came together in a formal way, but it's just good to have a sense as you're writing that you know who your initial audience is, if nothing else, And I've always shared projects sort of one at a time with certain writer friends. But to have a group to sit down and talk about it with has just been really rich. And you never lose the feeling that you're a beginner or that it's all about to blow up, or you never lose that insecure feeling. So it's no different than if we were just starting out. We're doing all the things you said, cheerleading and patting each other on the back. I mean, but also being pretty strong voices for good writing. And it's a different voice than your agent or your editor offers, because their job is to sell stuff and to do the commercial end of it. And our job is to make it good, so it's just different. And also it keeps our hearts afloat, which is nice.
You never lose that insecure feeling, that beginner's feeling?
Do you, Jennifer, do you like me? I'm just feeling a little insecure about this whole.
Bill, I'm just astonished. I mean, I'm looking at your faces and I've read all of your work, and I'm finding that hard to believe, but you're telling me I believe you, I guess.
Well, it does moderate. I mean, obviously, the quality of my my insecurity is different than it might have been 40 years ago. But and I met Monica 30 years ago or something like that. And, you know, our relationship has only grown because of this group.
Wow. Lewis Robinson, the same question to you. What does being in this writers group bring to you and to your work?
Well, the meetings themselves can be like completely energizing and productive, just because it's, you know, when we're sharing work that we haven't shared with anyone else, it's the first time that you get to just see how these characters are coming alive in other people's brains, and people that, you know, that I love and respect. So that's a big part of it. But I think even more important is something that Bill touched on, which is, you know, so much of our work is done in solitude. And while we're working on these projects, while we're unearthing them, we can think of, you know, I can think of how Sarah will respond to something that I'm writing. And that energizes me, like to think about, you know, what Kate will laugh at, or, you know, that really is helpful, super helpful.
Kate laughs at everything.
Oh, come on.
No, in a good way. I mean that as a good thing. You can always count on her to get the jokes.
Oh my gosh. Okay, Kate Christensen. I would love to be able to write something and know that someone will laugh and think that I have a friend who will actually laugh at something I've written. But Kate, what did these people do for you? We've heard what you do for them.
I just sit around and laugh. I had a writing group in New York, so this is my second writing group, and that group met for 16 years. Wow. And it took on a life of its own. There were, you know, people came and went, unlike this group, which has been exactly the same since it started. And I hope till death do us part, which I hope is a long time from now. But my group in New York was so invaluable to me as a young writer, as you were saying. And I moved to Maine sort of as a, I don't know, mid-career. How do we know where we are? But I had published books already, but I felt the need for a writing group. And I sat down with Bill. We read each other's books in progress and went out for dinner and started. It was such a relief to actually talk to another writer who wasn't my agent, who wasn't, you know, who was another writer whose work I had read also. So there was this exchange and a sort of investment that went both ways. And I think that's really sort of important in a writing group, this sense that we are all reading one another's work. We are all equally vulnerable. We're all equally committed. And there's this sort of rare coalescence. And the reason we're called the Starfish is that I saw it, I'm the one who came up with that. And here's why. Because the body of the Starfish, I feel, is sort of the energy that we generate as a group, from which all five of us sort of radiate out alone, doing our work, which we're doing, and we are alone when we do it. But there is this sort of sense of, it's like returning home in a game or something, that there is, we know, like Lewis was saying, like everyone is saying, that these readers, that these readers will receive this, you know, raw, new, fragile thing that, as Bill said, I mean, it is scary. And sometimes I'm palpitating when I walk into group, even though it's always productive and it's always helpful and inspiring.
Also, we cling on a rock as the cold waves wash over.
It does sometimes feel that way.
That does.
And don't starfish regenerate too? They're
Yeah,
pretty tough. They're fragile, but they're also pretty tough, right?
If I get hit by a bus, a new arm will grow. So.
Sarah Bronstein.
Yeah, I mean, I was just so grateful that Kate and Bill had that dinner that night and decided that it might be useful that it was so useful to share manuscripts with each other in this formal way that maybe they could reach out. And I think this group has just, I mean, changed me as a reader and as a writer, and that the group has forced me to such a high bar, like what Lewis said about thinking about the group as I write. These have become sort of the readers we go to when we're done with drafts, but they're readers who are sort of with me as I write. And I mean, I get stumped all the time when I'm writing. I lose faith constantly. I really do. And I have just learned, and it took a while too, because I think I was maybe the last of the group to share like a big thing, because I'd been working kind of quietly, and it was a long process. But then when I finally did, I knew I would never wait that long to share. And I think since then I'm throwing pages at you constantly, but I think I had just been so grateful that these people who I looked up to as writers I admire in all cases. Lewis and I have known each other for 2 decades, and met before, a while ago, but the rest of us have known each other in some cases in newer friendships. But, I'll never wait that long, because what I've learned from these, about craft, about solving narrative problems, like, it's amazing. It's like going to like the best. It's like if you have some car that like nobody knows how to fix, and you're playing this car, you're trying to fix it in your driveway. And then it's like, no, there's that like mechanic shop over there where it's just like all these mechanics care exactly about the thing you care about. And they're really nice people. And they're going to just sort of really take care of you and think hard about what your car needs or whatever. That's a very clumsy metaphor, but it really feels like it has become that significant in my life now. And there's sort of that, the borrowing of the insight and the learning from the people who've kind of done more than I have, these writers who have written many books. And then there's also just, the camaraderie and the cheerleading and the like, no, you got this, I know you got it. Cause I might sit and wonder for a lot longer without them.
Yeah, I feel like we get to the places in our books that we would have gotten to eventually, but this is just a big fat shortcut sometimes with the feedback that we get from each other. And Jen, we read hundreds of pages for each other, hundreds of pages.
I can only imagine. Oh my goodness. I need to tell you all that I would ask you questions all night, but we are giving those of you in the audience who want to ask questions a chance to. You can go and ask the question. If you're watching on YouTube, you can ask that question there. If you're not, you can go to, you can send an email, fun@mainepublic.org. Fun, F-U-N, @mainepublic.org is the email place, to the address to send a question. Why 5 of you? I hear 5 is sort of a magic number in this group. Not only are there 5 of you, which is the question, why 5? But then why is 5 such a great number for this group? Who wants to take that one?
Well, it just seemed, I will, if that's okay.
Bill Rohrback, go.
It just seemed like I remember Kate and I sitting at that very dinner, like thinking of different names and coming up with this group and hoping they would say yes, but we didn't have a reason for 5 particularly. It was just kind of a number that came up. And then we met a few times and really felt it clicking hard. And one night, I think Monica said, "Isn't this group just so wonderful? It just feels just right. I never want to add anyone else," and something. And we all kind of agreed, and we just were being very happy with ourselves. And I said, for me, it's really, I feel like it has to do. It's a comfort thing. This 5 of us, because I grew up in a family of 5, and then I said, and of course, Monica, you did too. Which I knew from reading When We Were the Kennedys, and also from knowing her sisters a little bit. Anyway, and I thought, I just thought that was interesting. And then I think Kate said, I'm not from a family of 5, unless you count my step siblings. Then I'm from a family of 5. And then Lewis said, well, I'm sorry to ruin the thing because I'm not from a family of 5. Unless you count my step siblings, and then I'm from a family of 5. And I think, right. Or half siblings, I'm not quite sure. And then Sarah said, well, I'm sorry to ruin this whole thing, but I'm not from. And Kate said, wait a minute, if you count my half siblings, yes, I'm from a All five of us are from a family of five. So here we've managed to, idealize that family. And the thing that's great about our all being from a family of five and now being a family of five is that we don't share parents. Because that isn't that who causes all the trouble, really? Anyway, I'm just kidding. But anyone else want to add something to that?
Well, we do feel like, we feel like siblings more than colleagues. At least I do. I think everybody feels that way.
Okay, so
In
siblings
some way.
sometimes fight. Do you all
Mhm.
sometimes fight? Do you squabble?
There's a little kerfuffle every once in a while, nothing serious at all. A disagreement about something but that's just part of how we roll.
Not
I'm going to go
really.
to a question that came in by email. This is from Cindy, and I'm going to ask this one because I know that it's going to lead to a question that's very important. How critical are you of each other's work? And do you ever struggle with whether or not to make changes based on what one of the other authors suggested? So Kate Christensen is raising her hand. How critical are you of your fellow authors?
This is the thing that I think makes this group work so well, because we manage to be extremely critical and hold one another to very, very high standards, because we all know what we're each capable of, and we all respect one another so much. So it comes from a place of sort of, I know that this isn't quite there. I know that. So what happens during the criticism, it isn't so much criticism as we get excited and we start writing each other's books. And Monica will email us after the meeting, like, we are all geniuses. Because the group is a sort of resource, as somebody else was saying, of ideas, that the shortcut, that the criticism can be intense, it can be pointed, it can be unexpected, it can feel like what you really wanted was to have everyone say, this is amazing and ready to be published, and that doesn't happen a lot because it isn't. But the real sort of richness that happens in the criticism is this sense of safety, and part of it comes from our friendships and the real love that we have in the room when we're talking about each other's work, not only for one another, but also for our writing. Like, I really love everyone's work, and I think that that's what makes the group really work. But that said, yes, I can come away feeling a little raw, and I have to sort of rethink everything. And there's always a flurry of emails after the meeting when the writer tries to articulate a plan based on the meeting. And that's also part of it. It's sort of the aftermath of getting the feedback, but it all happens in this bubble, our bubble of five. And there's always a lot of give and take, even after the meeting.
Yeah, we do that a lot. Sarah, I was just going to throw it over to you because, I remember a couple of months ago or something, I think we actually said, okay, let's fix this book. Let's fix it. And yes, we can fix it. And all together, we fixed it.
And yeah, I feel like always one of us will, there might be a consensus brewing. And I feel like we all take turns being the person to say, I see the appeal of this reading, but I don't feel like this is, I'm not, there's something here that I think isn't quite right. Or I think just pushing a little bit more, I feel like I feel safe and comfortable to do that, to say, I'm still not buying it, or to just ask a million questions if my feelings start getting hurt, or if I start feeling sensitive, just knowing I can ask question after question after question of the group, and that it'll bring me back. Once you understand yourself, your project, it brings you back to a kind of center where you can keep going. And I feel like that's just the most important thing you can get, and writing groups can give it to you at any stage of your career. I wish we had kind of found each other sooner.
But a difference at this stage of some of our careers is that we've all had editors, and we've all had some very intense, interactions with editors or agents where they've said, well, just cut these 400 pages and really brutal stuff that that might shock you as a new writer, but that is how the world works. And a great thing we can do for each other is say, okay, my editor just said this, this, and this, and I think she's nuts. What do you guys think? And they'll say, yes, she's totally nuts, but she's right, or whatever. So that's a little difference of being, the difference maybe from a younger group or a newer writers group.
Bill Rohrbeck speaking. This is a special edition of the Maine Public All Books Considered Book Club. We are speaking with the Starfish Writers Group. Bill, I'm so glad you brought up editors, because one thing I was wondering is if your editors, all of you, have noticed a difference in the last 5 years, if they've received your books, if any of them have said, there's nothing I need to do. These are astonishing. What's the difference here? I mean, you really have been each other's editors, haven't you?
Far from it in my case.
Yeah, I don't think any of us have astonished our editors lately, but
the books are better.
Nice?
The books are getting better, but editors never notice that.
But the thing that I love is how hard everybody works on their book. I'm thinking of you, Louis, with something that you're working on and how you completely reconceived parts of it based on what we had all done together. And it was, I just found that really inspiring. It inspires me to do the same thing in the stuff that I'm working on.
Well, and it's, I think it's a testament to how well we work as a group, because I always, and this is true of like our criticism of each other in general, that it's always kind of, you all do a great job of identifying the heart of the project and then working kind of from the inside out, as opposed to like Bill thinking, well, if this was a Rohrbeck venture, I would do it this way. It's really, here's the heart, and here's how you can, make it more of itself. So.
I'm going to go to an email here from Audrey. Any suggestions for how to go about finding compatible people and creating one's own writing group? Kate, wow. Kate Christensen, I'm going to toss to you because you said this is your second.
Okay. I always suggest that people find writing groups. Whenever I teach a workshop, I end the workshop by encouraging people to seek out one another if they feel like-minded, if they like one another's work. And often a writer's group will result from a workshop, and people will meet on their own without me there, which I think is really good. I think it's difficult because writing is so isolated, to identify and find and connect with other writers unless you sort of go out of your shell. One of the other names for our group is The Band. And it is sort of like, auditioning a drummer and finding the bass player and seeing if you're harmonious. And so, with a band, you can put up flyers and you tear off little tags, and you hold auditions. But writing groups are really tricky. They really are. I feel like we lucked out tremendously. My last writing group was nowhere near this solid and harmonious and sort of committed, like a marriage in a way, or a family. And I feel like a lot of it has to do with luck, but you also have to put yourself out there, maybe like dating. I don't know, so many metaphors come to mind. I feel like the nuts and bolts idea is that someone needs to sort of spearhead it. And if you really want a writing group, you spearhead it and, add a person, find one person.
Tara Bronstein.
Yeah, I think I'd like to say that I think the best, if you're serious about writing, you're kind of always writing. And so I think that taking a writing class, even if you're not sort of wanting to do formal writing classes or do an MFA, but finding a community writing class of any sort is a great way to find possible readers. It seems like you might not want to draw from your own friend circle, but there's something really wonderful. And we are all friends, and we're all friends before, though we've become much, much tighter. I mean, we feel like a family now. But maybe not starting from that place is useful. It's starting from go to a writing, Maine Writers Publishers Alliance class, or those kinds of places where you over the course of several weeks potentially listen to someone talk about writing and see what they're working on. And, that's when you start proposing, maybe we could meet and do this kind of a thing. And I think I've just become, it helps, I'm a teacher. And so it helps me with creative writing classes to remember what my students are going through. It really, because you forget after a while what it feels like to be in that space, the sort of circle. But this is exactly what we're doing with each other. And it's so, in some ways, humbling. It seems, and then, I tell my students, find a group by connecting post after the class, because a class is just a way in.
Have any of you ever had to extract yourself from a group or kick someone out of a group?
Yes.
Oh, wouldn't that be awful? We're thinking about
Thankfully,
paying
no.
Pillow. This would be a bad time to say it.
It was
Thankfully, I've had really harmonious writing group experiences in general. This just is the most formal and the most kind of familial and the longest running. There are many writers out there, though, I've worked with and just been so grateful for, but this just feels big.
Lewis.
Well, I don't think I've confessed this to you all, but I think we were a few months in and I considered bailing.
What?
Yeah, I really did. It had been really since graduate school that I'd worked that intimately with a group of writers, and I just was not used to collaborating in that way. And I felt really vulnerable, and it just took a little while to adjust to. I mean, it was difficult. And then I think that was before I shared any work with you all. And then I did. And then I started to write with you all in mind. And that's really when, I found a place in the group. But it was a difficult adjustment for me. And so I think maybe that's one piece of advice to folks who are thinking about, putting together a group, is that it does require, some vulnerability. I mean, I think that's key.
It's so interesting to me that you say that, Lewis, because I'm thinking that just to be a writer takes such vulnerability, to be a good writer. I mean, you have got to go really deep and make yourself really vulnerable, especially if you're writing poetry or fiction. And maybe to be in a writer's group that's so intimate is sort of a double whammy of vulnerability, to go there and you're writing and then to do it with people you're close to, huh? Yeah. Sarah, you were raising your hand.
Just to say, I think I hadn't kind of put it that way to myself, but I think I was more I think other writers in this group have, written, have more books than I have and have worked for a long time. And I think learning to be a reader for those people and feeling trusted as a reader gave me courage over time to start sharing my work. But that's something to think about. One doesn't need to be at exactly the same place in your career. There's something really powerful about, I think, beginning writing, someone who hasn't published a book yet, working with writers who are kind of more well on their way, or there's just I don't know, there can be kind of harmony and energy in that kind of a dynamic. And I feel that within our group, even though, I feel that within our group significantly.
Kate Christensen.
I forgot what I was going to say because I was so wrapped up in what Sarah was saying. I think it had to do with touching on what Lewis was saying about the beginning of the group and how it did feel very, we didn't coalesce right away. I think we went through a sort of period of sort of learning one another, sort of, and developing a style as a group, because groups don't just form, you work at it, you make it, you commit to it, and you show up, and it, over time, I feel that this has happened. But I think at the beginning, I was feeling really fragile. I was new to Maine, and this was really big and important for me to do. And I was so happy when you all said yes. And, I was kind of the new girl, like Lewis and Sarah are old friends. Bill and Monica are old friends, and I'm the middle child. I'm sort of the newcomer, and so I was sort of like, well, I mean, are they going to like my work? I don't even, I'm trying something new, and and so that's all I wanted to say was saying, Louis, I understand what you're saying, and I'm glad you didn't bail.
Oh my gosh.
Louis, I want to ask you something interesting. You said you write and you think of the other 4 members of the group when you're writing. Do you think you write for a different audience now that you're a member of this group?
Well, one
Is
way
your
that
reader a different reader?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, I think one thing that this group has changed in me, or at least I in my most recent project, I feel like I was able to really refine the joy in writing. I felt really adrift and alone before I joined this group, which is probably why it was difficult to join. And then once I did, I think that this group really gave me the courage to just kind of have that beginner's mindset and to have this fresh, new, respected audience was totally energizing. And I felt like I went to my desk for that 1.5 years when I was drafting this novel with just a lot of joy. I mean, it feels weird to say, because I know that, I mean, writing is hard, but like that experience of just going day after day, I think I was really helped by the group. And I felt like I was kind of getting a fresh start.
Monica, I think I stepped on you. You were about to say something, Monica.
No, I'm still trying to get over the fact that Louis almost left us. I'm just, great timing, Louis, in front of all these people. But anyway, we'll deal with that later. This little bird right here, it's a little, I think it's a cast iron bird. We all have one in different colors. And when I'm feeling really, as Sarah's is blue, when I'm feeling discouraged or even just uninspired, or, we all go through these peaks and valleys of writing, I just make sure that my little birdie is sitting right on my laptop, like right there. And that's the band. And I just think, however bad this is, I have this group of people that's going to help me make it better. And I could just cry thinking about it. I can't even tell you how important that is to my writing process.
Yeah. I would like to interject that we don't only talk about our work and about manuscripts that we've shared, but a big chunk of our evenings together, or our afternoons now more often, we're just talking about everything, because a big part of the struggle of writing is the rest of your life. It's so hard to carve out space for something that the world just doesn't really care about, including the world that's immediately around you. Everyone needs something from you, and I've been through health things, and everyone has, and just everything that life throws at us is a subject that we talk about, for a while before we get to whatever work is at hand. So I just wanted to add that thought, that your writing group, it's not like
Bill Rohrbeck, it's interesting you brought that up, because we do have an email here from Jonathan. Do you have a hard time staying on task? Isn't it tempting to just talk about your personal lives with each other the whole time?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, sometimes.
And those are interesting too. But of course, because we know each other well, they're intimately and intricately intertwined with what we're writing. So there's every reason to do so, and we don't think about it as getting off of task. And we always know what the task is. Mm-hmm. So if we have Monica's play, we're all going to take a role. We're going to read the parts, and that's fun and exciting. So at a certain point, someone will say, "Let's get to work," or whatever the right phrase is.
Mm-hmm. We
And
always
that
do.
question was from an email. And if you want to send an email, and if you have a question for our authors, the members of the Starfish Writers Group, that email is fun@mainepublic.org. You can also go to the YouTube channel or the Facebook page, the Maine Public Facebook page, to leave a comment or question. This is a special edition of the Maine Public All Books Considered Book Club. We are talking with the Starfish Writers Group. Helene on YouTube asks, does your group have a structure concerning how much time each member uses each session and how you give feedback? Do you have a structure? Are you left-brained? Do you organize how you do this?
It's not military, but we definitely have a structure. And for some reason, every once in a while we'll get log jammed. It doesn't happen often, but every once in a while, 2 or more of us will have something big that has to be read. And then we just meet more often and commit that way. But usually is this right, you guys? I mean, it's usually one person is the main thing each time we meet. It seems.
I feel like it all is kind of organic. I mean, whoever has work that they need read will send it to the others. And whoever is able to read it will read it. So it's actually very fluid in terms of who gives the most feedback at any given sort of time. And we will read draft after draft of one another's work, which is an incredible resource. Just incredible, because we all have this familiarity with, the first draft, what you did in the first draft, I kind of miss this one scene that you've cut out, or, we have this sort of depth of reference with any given work. So I feel like we sort of meet as we don't have any set frequency, or I'm in New Mexico now for the winter and we'll meet on Zoom. But sorry, Louis, I saw your hand up.
No. I definitely didn't want to interrupt, but I did want to say one organic part of our process, I think, has been to typically after we've had our discussion, the author in the next few days we'll send an email to the rest of the group and just say, this is what I heard, and this is what my plan of attack is in the next draft. And that has been, and then others will chime in and just say, wow, you've got this, or here's one thing I'd like to add. So there is like kind of a debrief afterwards that is hugely important. And we never really talked about that, but that's just something that's kind of a pattern that's emerged and is super important, seems like, for the author and for the rest of the group.
I've got to ask you all, do you have a plan for when one of you makes it really big with some movie rights? Is there, an island in the tropics that you're going to buy and share or something like that?
I think Taos. It looks like we're gonna all set up a compound in Taos, because Kate seems pretty nice out there. Just kidding. We'll never leave.
No. I do want to say, just going on what Louis just said about what we do for each other and about the plan is, I always come in with a million questions and with my head in chaos, and I leave with a plan. And that is so important, to just leave with a plan. And I think that's what we do really well for we've done it for everybody's book, is, different little plans. And then, Sarah.
And the plan isn't, here's what you do, and this is how you get to the end of the book. The plan is sometimes a little step, and it's something, you will discover more as you go. And it's this experience of having these writers who have worked at it and have had success and failure. And for those people to say, it's okay to not know the end yet, or it's okay to just have a sort of, it's almost like maybe the next month is for you to play with something, or maybe you need to write a short story now, or I don't know. So just want to be clear that there's something about the sort of state of not knowing, or being kind of the most expert advice is often just, it's like hard to not know, and you just have to kind of push your way through, and here are some strategies that maybe will work, and I see what you're trying to do.
I know this is going to be a really hard thing to pull out sort of on the fly, but I'm wondering if any of you can think of an example of something that changed because of the group. was there, for example, a whole character that vanished from a book because of a conversation in the group, or just something that people who aren't authors might still be able to relate to?
I have one just from last week. I'm working on a new play, and there's a lot of characters and a lot of things going on, and it's a little chaotic at the moment. And what I got from everybody was a connection between two sets of characters, that a similar thing was happening to the mother and daughter in one, and to the siblings in the other one, who are, the age difference makes it a little bit parent-child-ish. And I hadn't seen that before. And so it gave me somewhere to go, because I do have a full draft at this point, but there are missing pieces. And so I spent the last 2 weeks working on making those connections that I had not yet made myself.
And what I love, Monica, I don't know if you noticed when you said that, both Bill and Kate broke into great big smiles when you said that. So there's a story under that story. Does anyone else have an example to share?
I do. I've been banging my head against the brick wall of a novel for a few years now, and I haven't been able to figure out what the hell the center of it is. And Monica has told me over and over, it's about the two sisters. It's about the two sisters, Kate. It's about the two sisters. And I go away and I think, yeah, but is it? I don't know.
But will you listen?
She's my big sister now, so I ignore her at my peril. But I think that I put that novel aside, and I started writing a detective series that is pure genre and pure fun. And like, as Lewis was saying, sort of with the feeling like I wanted to entertain this group after putting them through, a few drafts of this very dark, very novel about, sort of existential, whatever. But I'm ready to go back to it now. And I'm realizing that, don't die of shock, Monica, but it's about the sisters.
You don't say.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay, well, this could start another strain. What's some insight that along those lines that one of you wants to share? When has another member of the group really been right?
Oh, they're always right. I mean, I don't think anybody's ever been wrong, honestly. I mean, Bill, you look skeptical.
No, that's just my default face. No, I don't think we're ever wrong exactly, but we might be wrong for the project at hand. I mean, yeah, and I'm very sort of direct, I like actually rewrite stuff, which is obnoxious, I realize, but sometimes Monica said to me, oh my God, Bill, thank you. These suggestions are so good. I'm going to use this and this. However, I'm not going to use that. Because it's stupid or something. It's really direct. So that's part of it too, is having everyone to bounce off of. So you can say, all right, that's what Bill said, but what do you guys think? And they go, I don't think so. I think maybe if it was a Bill book, maybe, but I don't think so. And then, for me, a useful thing was to bring in just a small packet of new pages recently that I thought were pretty ridiculous, but maybe it could work. I don't know. So I thought, no, I don't. There's no one I would show this to. I mean, and I'm going to just quit on it. But I brought it to these guys as a and just said, all I want to know is, should I keep going? And we had something else to work on that night. So I gave them it was 20 pages, and everyone said, oh my God, yes, keep going. It's working so far. And I was like, oh, it is? Okay. And then I go back, and I had handed it to them with I was sure everyone would say, okay, that's the stupidest thing I've ever read. Because in a way it is. And then the next morning I opened it up and went, oh, this is great. I love this. I'm just going to go to town with this thing. And now it really has turned stupid, but they won't see it until I get the whole draft of it.
Yeah, don't give us the stupid version, okay, Bill?
All right, all right.
But isn't that the truth? I mean, one of the things that we do for each other is just that we always leave with momentum. If it's our turn to have something done, we always leave with some momentum, which is just precious.
Lewis Robinson.
Oh, I just wanted to respond to what Bill was saying, because that honestly was one of the most energizing discussions we had. I was so excited about that project and its exuberance and its fearlessness. And it's so funny to hear Bill talk about his, his kind of trepidation coming into that discussion, because that that just got me excited to start something new. Yeah. And that happens sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Let me see here. I've got so many questions coming in. I'm having a hard time finding the ones that I meant to read. Okay. An email here from Cindy. Are there certain things that you still prefer to work on your own and not share with the others? Or that you will admit to on this special meeting of the book club?
No, that's my
No, for me, no.
no.
Okay. Wow.
Sarah's got something.
No, I was just thinking like Bill's erotica or something. But I think no, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking around. But I mean, it really feels like anything that I care about, I want these writers to look at too. And even if it's just a kind of, yeah, I think that's right. Although I also feel like there's something really special about just working and giving all these pages all at once and saving the group's kind of energy and goodwill for the big hard stuff.
Yeah, well, that's what you tend to do, Sarah. You hold out.
Yeah.
I think of all of us, you hold out the longest, and that's just part of your process. I think I might hold out the least. I give things that are pretty early. We're all different in that way.
I never would have given anyone that early a bit before. So that's a way I've changed in response to this group. And I remember, Sarah, you gave something to someone besides us first. I felt so jealous.
We were so mad.
I got such grief because I said, yes, I got such grief from this group but we do, I mean, of course we have other readers. There are so many great, we have such great readers, but it's just this other way of working that centralizes.
It's just hard to accept that your siblings have friends, I mean.
That's it, exactly.
Well, let me ask you all this. How hard is it, Monica, when we were talking a little earlier about the whole idea of doing this event tonight, you sort of hinted at, boy, being a published author and having a reputation doesn't necessarily mean that much when you're trying to get a book published.
Oh, well, yeah, no, it's hard. I mean, I think I've been dumped by a publisher, Bill. I know you have. We all have, people think that published, quote, successful writers, the roller coaster is all going one way, but
it's just getting that first bit published, getting your name on the cover, getting some books sold, and you're on your way.
There's a lot of bumps on that road, and I think we provide a lot of solace for each other when we're in one of those places.
As we all are from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
It turns out that, when I remember being young and thinking that being published would solve all my problems and be a form of nirvana, but it turns out that it's horrible. It's horrible. All the better is in the making, it turns out. The publish, that is fun to have a book out and you go through so that dream isn't dead, but just turns out the making is the best part. And then so together we're sort of participating in each other's making, which means we're having all of the most fun that we can have. And we also have someone to talk about the difficult world of publishing. It's quite brutal. It's quite brutal at times.
I understand each of you actually is nearing or has completed or there is a project that is about to be seen by the rest of us out here
Well,
in
that book,
audience land.
that book that I discussed with Kate, mine with her and hers has already been published. The Last Cruise. That was the book we discussed.
Oh,
at dinner.
really? Oh, Kate.
Right,
Oh,
Kate?
how
That's
exciting.
right. That was the first book we worked on together.
Oh,
Mhm.
wow.
And my book that we discussed at that time, this is years ago, was Lucky Turtle, which is coming out in April. So
Yeah.
And other things are boiling and bubbling, and everyone's going to be bursting forth with stuff. Sarah just had a story in the New Yorker that I basically wrote, but gets all the credit, all the fame and money.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have a book in the chute as well. So but we're all at different stages. So,
Oh,
And
and
my
that's always the
gosh.
case. Thank goodness. I mean, it's nice that we're not all in the exact same place in the process at the same time, because that would be tough.
And
That'd be
Lewis
tough
has a
on all of
script
you, right?
coming.
Have you ever thought of doing something that's collaboratively in terms of even the next step where it would have, oh gosh, I'm going to use the word bylines because I'm a journalist, where I have 2 bylines?
Kate, didn't your novel, the most recent novel you wrote, have kind of a amalgamation of our names?
That's right.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was just for you guys. I was trying to think of a pseudonym for my detective series, and I decided on Robin Wood Brownbach. Think about it.
Oh my goodness, isn't this sweet? Facebook comment from Desiree. If I needed a shortcut answer to why I choose to live in Maine, let me just point to this group of writers.
Aw.
Aw.
Nicole on YouTube says, it's so wonderful to see and listen to you all together. Very generous of you to open yourselves up to the public. If someone wants to join your group, how do you deal with that?
Nobody's ever asked, and we're 5, and 5 we are.
We're from families of 5, not families of 6. Sorry, people. Lewis, you were just going to say something.
Just that, Sarah and I had talked long ago about writing a YA book together, and I still think that would be a great idea. So we'll do that sometime.
And when you say YA, you mean young adult?
Yeah, or middle grade or something. Yeah, I think it would be fun to do.
Okay. An email from Sue, and I think you all touched on this, but I want to go into it a little more specifically. Sue wants to know, how often does the group meet? And you said it varies, but what does it vary from? Does it vary from once a week to once a month, or from once a month to once a year?
Kate, you want to answer that?
I feel like we meet from, sometimes we'll have to meet, like right before I left Maine for the winter, we met 3 times,
Mhm.
twice, all in a row, because as Monica said, sometimes we get a log jam. So then we try to read and meet as fast as we can so that everyone gets read and discussed. But sometimes, months go by. Do they though?
Not many, maybe 2 at the most, wouldn't you
At the
say?
most.
2 months would be.
And then, yeah,
can
2 at the
say-
most, and then we use Zoom, of course, during the pandemic, in the heart of the pandemic, when it wasn't, viable to meet in person, we did Zoom we did Zoom. So Lewis, what were you going to say?
Well, just that I know that some other writer groups, have kind of a schedule that they stick to, and it's like a rotation of who's sharing once a month or whatever. And I think that can work for some folks. But what I like about our structure is that whenever we meet, there's just great urgency. There's always like a real purpose. Someone has a manuscript that they really need a read on, and so I think that it never feels arduous. It's like, oh, my siblings need me, and then we meet.
Sometimes I haven't, you get so much coming in various, not just from the group, but from life, that I can't do much on a given draft, but I know it's going to come back around. And
Yeah.
the next time I give it my all, and that way if that kind of varies who's giving their all at any given time. So you get some cool. I want to point out, I think it's been roughly, you could say roughly once a month-ish,
Yeah.
But the other thing to point out is the delicious food that we eat and the drink, and it's a party every time, really. Keep that in mind.
I think I'll just wrap up again by putting you all on the spot and asking if you have any words of wisdom, I guess. I suspect, I don't know this for a fact, but I suspect there are people watching or listening right now who are people who may be trying to write a novel for the first time, maybe people who are in a workshop in a college or in their community, maybe somebody who's taken a workshop with one of you. And boy, it's a frustrating time because of the pandemic, but writing is hard. Monica, I know that some advice you've given in the past is just to put your rear end in the chair and do it. But wondering what kind of advice you have for people who aspire to write a novel and people who aspire to write well, and how you might just give somebody some courage and confidence. And I'll start with you, Monica Wood.
Well, this is November, so isn't that no? What is it called? NaNoWriMo. What is that thing?
NaNoWriMo.
Yeah, and it's where
NaNoWriMo
commit to writing a novel in a month, which is absurd. But the idea is that for 1 month they commit to writing a certain number of pages, and they set their own thing. It's a whole thing online, and everybody joins. And I always have loved that idea for people who have been saying, I just really have this idea, I want to get it out. And it's the consistency that's the most important thing. Even if all you've got is 20 minutes after you put the kids to bed, use that. If it's important enough to you, you will. I've often said that if writing isn't that important to you, it won't get done. If it is, it will. Heroin addicts don't say, oh, well, there's no heroin today. I guess I'll just sit here and hope some comes to me. That's not what they do. They need it, so they get it. And it's a horrible analogy, but that's what it is. If it's really, Louis is laughing at me, but if it's that important to you, you will find a way.
Monica has set the bar high, Sarah.
We have a lot of metaphors. For a bunch of writers, we're full of mixed metaphors. I know. But I will say that Bill Werbach was the one who told me, because I have a big job that I love, a teacher of writing, and I have a family and just a lot happening. And I was feeling at some point that I couldn't get to my seat. And Bill, I think, was the one who just said 10 minutes at your counter, just touch it every day. Just know you can stand at your kitchen counter and kind of play with whatever you've got. Just do something on your way out the door, like keep the stakes low and just do a little bit every day. Because in some ways, I think Monica's right. If you care, it'll happen, but it doesn't have to happen by people. I mean, for a long time, I didn't have that time. And just having 10 minutes, knowing I could just stand at the kitchen counter. Do you remember when you said that to me, Bill?
Yeah.
Somehow it was important advice for me at that moment.
That's your expression too, Sarah, touching it every day. I love that. I've used that myself. I could just touch it every day.
Yeah.
Sometimes
We're back. Sounds like she teed you up.
Well, that's sort of what I was going to say, but just checking in with the project every day. But that doesn't get you started. What gets you started is starting. So that would be my advice: is stop thinking about it and stop researching and stop telling yourself you're going to do it and stop buying special paper and 7 pencils and stop all of that and just tomorrow morning start writing. It doesn't have to be good. I think that's one of the most important points to be made, is that, and boy, we know it as a group, that you wade through a lot of false starts and you've almost got it, but it's aimed the wrong direction. And but go ahead. The only way to get to get to the other side of the lake swimming is you've gotta swim the first half of the lake. You can't, you don't get to the other side if you didn't start from the shore, so just dive in. Don't worry about it. You don't even have to have an idea, really. You just go, I know I want to write a novel. I know I got it in me. So you just